Hey, everybody, we got a great one today, for a change. And this time, I mean it, because it's a best of. And we never air a best of that was just terrible. And that's a promise. And we're doing a best of because Peter and I deserve a break, especially me. Right, Peter?
Yeah.
Now, today is an especially great best of because my guest is the brilliant Patton Oswalt. And Patton is one of the few stand-ups out there who does political humor every so often. But during our conversation, he gave his explanation of why it's hard to do comedy about Trump. This was his analogy.
Trump is a 18-wheeler full of monkeys on PCP, and it crashes into a train full of diarrhea. And now there's diarrhea-covered monkeys on PCP running around. Everyone's watching it, and you as a comedian walk up and go, "You want to hear some jokes I wrote about this?" You're like, "No, we're good. It's diarrhea-covered monkeys on PCP. What are you talking about?" So it was that. Oh, and by the way,
That's a very good explanation.
Thank you.
Of why it was so frustrating for comedians to hear, what a gold mine this guy is.
No, it's one joke. I mean, I also said that it's impossible to keep up with him because my analogy was he's a crazy guy on the sidewalk and he's just taking a dump. And then you turn to your friends and you have this amazing joke about the guy taking the dump. And by the time you turn to them, they're like, "Oh, he turned back around. He took his poo and made a piñata out of it. He's like, has it on his head." And you're like, "Oh, I don't have a material." Like, there's no way to keep up with him. There's no shelf life.
Anyway, Peter and I are taking a little time off for Christmas and New Year's. So here you go. Patton Oswalt and another great one, for a change. Oh, yeah, and Happy New Year. We both had trouble getting into the building.
Oh, did you have trouble too?
I think you've heard me do counterintuitive. Maybe it was when we did a thing at Largo. I tried to do this bit about you go to a lot of hotels. It's funny. Both of us are on the road now, right? And you've been on the road a lot more than I have over the years. And one of the things that, I decided to work up stand-up, and I started going to the Comedy Cellar. And I started seeing a lot of stand-ups. Yeah. I love great stand-ups. There's a lot of them, and you are one of them.
Thank you.
And I saw you at the Kennedy Center.
The Kennedy Center.
Yes.
That other little workout space. Comedy Cellar, Kennedy Center. I dropped in. I did a set at the
Kennedy Center.
Yeah, Gustavo Dudamel gave me 5 minutes in between Tchaikovsky pieces. It was nice. Very nice.
It was beautiful.
Yeah.
But one of the things I noticed that stand-ups do, and I used to wonder about this, why do stand-ups do so much material about hotels and planes? And I could have probably figured it out.
Why would they? It's weird.
Yeah.
It is such a, I remember watching, there's a Charlie Kaufman film called Anomalisa, and there's a scene it's a stop motion animated film. It's brilliant. But the scene at the beginning, I had this weird PTSD because he's checking into a hotel room. And even though it's all done in stop motion miniatures, they really recreated how every hotel room is just a mutant variation on every other hotel room, no matter how expensive or cheap it is. There's the same little coffee maker. There are the same little desk that kind of connects, just the unpacking and that ritual. You go into this, oh, that's right, I'm going to be alone in this room for a while. This is
But what I've discovered is a certain counterintuitiveness to certain hotels. For example, you check in, you go to your hotel room.
Yeah.
They have music on in the hotel room, and you have no idea how to turn it off.
That is, W hotels are that way. It takes forever to figure out where is the music coming from. How do I turn it off?
So I've had these things where I call down at the desk and I go "Hi, this is how's your stay, Mr. Frank? Fine. I just got here and I just want to know how to turn the music off. Oh, you'll be surprised how many of our guests ask us that. Yes. But before I tell you how to turn it off, let me ask you, did you enjoy having music on when you arrived at your room? No. No.
Right.
And did you have popular classics? No, I don't know. Or did you have American classics? Or did you have? I don't know what I had, but I don't. Would you have preferred? Like
Right.
I just wanted to learn how to turn it off. Okay, it's a little complicated.
I know it's, and don't you want to ask them? By the way, let me ask you something. Do you like getting these calls like every third guest, where you have to walk them through? It's like walking through someone through defusing a bomb. Basically, it's so many steps.
Yeah, and then there's the next thing. I call down. I go like, my message light is on, and I don't know how to turn it off. You'll be surprised how many guests call down over that question. Okay. Well, I could walk you through it. It's a little complicated, but it's just a message from our manager hoping that you have a great stay. Would you like me to turn it off? Yes.
Yes. My two. Oh, I can't believe we went right into hotel stuff. We're just old road dogs. The two things I can't stand in hotels, and I know that they mean well, the more expensive the hotel you are in, the more complicated the shower is, and the more complicated the lighting controls are for the room. Yes. In a cheaper hotel, it's a switch. In an expensive hotel, there is some kind of small iPad where you press it's a touch screen and you control the whole room, but it's not, like you said, it is not an intuitive thing. It is user hostile.
And then also I've had a thing where no matter how you turn it on, it's scalding hot.
Yes, that drives me. Well, there are some controls where when you first turn it on, the first option is scalding hot, and then you have to adjust down. Whereas I would rather, yes, cold is uncomfortable, but it's not going to hurt me. Can we start with the cold and then I'll adjust up? But even then, sometimes it's not clear how do you adjust, because sometimes you got to press buttons.
You're
at the same
listening
time.
to two comedians who are currently on road tours and who are very frustrated, but who go to the most obvious material that they can think of.
This is NPR's Old Men Frustrated with Controls. We'll be right back after this message.
Well, I'm 70. You're 51?
53.
53?
You're 70?
I'm 70.
Damn. You're a young, spry 70.
I look like I'm 68.
Yeah. I think Gen X aged very quickly. We couldn't wait to get old. We were already like curmudgeonly, can't I just sit down? I don't want to do anything. And you guys at least fought it.
So you're on the road now, and we're actually going to some of the same places.
We keep barely missing each other.
Yeah.
I'm either at a place you were just at, or you're coming to a place that I'm at.
Yeah. And, I'm a big admirer of yours. This is my first time on tour as a single. I used to go with Tom Davis.
Uh-huh.
And we were doing like Bob and Ray. This has nothing to do with what you do and what I'm now doing, which is a single.
Were you in clubs?
We did clubs. We did a lot of colleges.
Oh, and you opened for a lot of bands.
No, not really. A few, but not many. We opened for the Grateful Dead once.
One of my favorite showbiz stories, because of what you said at the beginning, which is we worked out a deal with the band. The longer we perform, the less time they have to play.
That's right.
And the crowd almost rushed the stage to murder both of you. That's one of the greatest things I've ever heard.
That's on YouTube. That's where we introduced them at Radio City Music Hall. And it starts with a video of us backstage trying to get trying to get Jerry to introduce us.
Right.
And I drop his guitar because I was eating a rib. And then we go one after one, don't get him to do it. Finally, Brent agrees to do it, who had just been with the band about a week, the keyboard guy. And when he introduces us, this is at Radio City, 5,000 people.
Hell yeah.
And he says, I don't think these guys are very funny. Please welcome Frank and Dave. And then they start booing right away, but we go like, hey, we've worked out this deal with the band where we're going to just do an hour of comedy. and that the longer we do, the less they're going to play. Boo! Wait a minute. You want us just to get off and have the band come on? Yeah. Are you sure? And then that was a fun intro.
That must have been amazing.
Well, we're enormous deadheads, of course.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So what's it like being out there alone? What's that like?
I really kind of love it.
Mm-hmm.
I love traveling with Tom. I love doing the stuff we did.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're a Bob and Ray fan, I imagine. Every
little
comedian
bit.
whose taste I respect loves Bob and Ray. And I loved what we did.
Mm-hmm.
But this is completely different. And it was a challenge. And I started going down to the cellar and the Comedy Cellar.
You would like do like 5 to 7 minutes, or like you were doing chunks of material, right?
Yeah, but I was doing, you brought me to Largo.
That's right.
Yes, here in L.A.
Yeah.
Thank you. You're very kind. You have a spot at Largo?
Yeah, one Sunday a month, unless I'm really touring or working.
And you're working all the
I'm working
time.
a lot. And also, I've gone to Flanagan, and he's been very, very nice to me about.
He's a guy who runs Largo.
Flanagan, Mark Flanagan is a great guy who runs Largo. And there have been Sundays where he's like, how about we do this one? And I go, well, I know that I'm working that next Monday morning, and I know it's an early call, and I know that I need to be in bed by 8. Like I've so embraced my age.
Let's explain what Largo is, because
Largo started as a music club, small cabaret on Fairfax, across from Cantor's in Hollywood. And it started a Monday night show in the 90s, late 90s, early aughts, that really kind of took off and became this another one of those hotbed places where acts kind of launched out of there. Tenacious D launched out of there. And then every Monday for $5, it was Sarah Silverman, Zach Galifianakis, David Cross, Andy Kindler, like every Monday. So it just became this real thing. And then he sold that club and bought the old, very historic Coronet Theater on La Cienega. And it's a bigger space, music and comedy. People do shows there all the time. I just did a benefit. It was me, Judd Apatow, Jim Carrey, Jackson Brown, and Ron Funches. That was just a benefit for Children's Hospital, like on a Saturday night. Why not?
I raised nothing.
And we ended up, the hospital owed Largo money at the end of it. It was weird. So yeah, it's this great, and it's this just amazing space that Mark Flanagan has kind of cultivated over the years, where people like in the 90s, I remember he would throw people out that were talking, that were on their cell phones. It became very, very well known. When you're in the Largo, shut the F up and watch the show.
Yeah, don't tape anything. They take your phone. Do they take your phones, or does everyone just understand that?
It's understood, and it's just like, and he pissed off all the right people. He chased away the people that were just looky-loos, that were like, I read about this in Rolling Stone, I thought I'd come and see it. You know, because especially some of the Monday night shows, suddenly like Tom Petty was showing up to watch the show, the Farrelly brothers, Elvis Costello. So there were people coming to see who else was in the crowd, and that is always the worst audience to have. So he very quickly
the Farrelly brothers
people.
And the people you're talking about are the people who were really coming. They weren't the people.
No, they were coming to see the show. There were. What I'm saying is there were other people coming to look at them and go, "Oh, that's Tom Petty."
And it's also, Largo is famously a place when you're going to go on tour, or when you're working toward getting your set together on tour.
Yes,
because you've done 3 Netflix specials.
Yes. I've done like 7 specials at this point, but yeah, I've done 3 for Netflix.
So, well, then you've done 7. So every time you do one, you have to throw out your material.
I abide by a principle that Chris Rock told me, which is when you put out an album or a special, the minute it's out there, you can't do that material anymore. Let's say you put out a special and then you go on tour and people come see you because they've watched the special. If you do the material that was in the special, they'll be happy, but they'll never come see you again because they'll go, that's what he does.
Right.
But if they watch your special and then they come and see you live and you do a whole new hour, they're your fans for life. They will always come and see you because they'll know that you're always bringing them new stuff. Whereas with bands, it's the exact opposite. If you do an album, you had better play that album that they bought. They do not want to hear your new stuff.
Yeah,
better play that
fucking
album.
musicians. They don't have to think of anything new for a while.
I remember I was talking, I'm going to drop a name, but I met Huey Lewis and we were talking about, he was a teenager in San Francisco growing up. And I told him that about comedians and musicians. He goes, oh my God, I saw Zeppelin. I think I was 16 or 17. They were touring on Zeppelin 3. So, of course, we're all in the Fillmore, and I want to hear Going to California. I want to hear Immigrant Song. I want to hear the stuff from the first 2 albums. And he remembers them doing a rough version of Stairway to Heaven, which had not come out yet. Like, here's a new song we're working on. And he goes, all my friends and I were like, let's go get a beer. This is stupid. Don't listen to this. Like, he just went up and went and got snacks. I don't know what this song is. I'm gonna listen to this. So yeah, that's a huge thing about, you can build a fan base, you can lose a fan base.
My act is basically I haven't done one.
Yeah, it's all new for you.
Yeah, so this is an accumulation of a lot of time. To put this stuff together.
And a lot of experiences that you've had, that stuff that you've seen and, been a part of. It must be amazing.
The name of the tour is the only former U.S. Senator currently on tour. And there's a lot about the Senate that other comedians don't do.
Yeah, my Senate stuff it doesn't land because it can tell that I didn't really experience it. I'm just kind of
all it is you watching.
It's just me watching
C-SPAN.
It's not that immediate. I'm not really, I don't bring you there. That's the problem.
You go you say, I watch C-SPAN a lot, so I know a lot.
I got to drop that chunk. It just feels really sweaty. It's very sweaty. It's weird. I remember when I did that benefit show with Jim Carrey went up on stage and just talked about his experiences in Hollywood. He just talked for 10 minutes about the weirdness that he's experienced and seen, and it was fascinating. And we were talking backstage, and I said, I don't want to be this guy, but someday you should do just a one-man show and talk about the shit you've seen, because it would be fascinating. And I said the same thing. I remember I became friends with Robin Williams before he passed. And, Robin was he was very much Robin, but then when you would just talk to him one-on-one and he would tell you about the stuff he had done on movies and stuff like that, I was like, if you ever did like a chronicle of your life, the stuff that you were adjacent to and involved in that no one knows about, it would just be endless raconteur tales of weirdness.
Which he could easily do.
Yes.
And maybe would have.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. But it reminds me, he could have done what Springsteen did on Broadway, where, yes, Springsteen's doing his songs, but then he's just talking to you. And you're like, oh, he's had a fascinating life. Outside of the songs.
Robin's act wasn't just talking to you.
No, it was a lot of times he was arguing with himself up there, which was fascinating. You could see the different characters.
It's funny. I only have 2 glasses of water in my act.
He had like a mini 7-Eleven of water bottles up there. He just had to.
So how long does it take you to just create an entire new act? I mean, your last special was what, 20?
2020. Yeah. It takes me, I'm not as fast a writer as other comedians because I've never developed the discipline to sit down for a chunk of time and write jokes. All my writing happens on stage. So I have like ideas I jot down, but I need to go up on stage and work it out in front of an audience, which is why the pandemic was so
but that you can feel that as your style.
Because I want it to feel like it's happening and we're having a conversation and I'm talking to you rather than reciting an act that I've crafted. And I'm not saying that that's a bad thing to do. Some people that can sit and write, they do the most brilliant. I mean, Emo Phillips is one of the most brilliant joke writers I've ever seen, and it is all written out, but it is the best jokes. It's like him and Anthony Jeselnik, like just the level of writing that they're able
Carlin
to do.
Wrote every day, right?
Not only did he write every day, he wrote every word of that stuff out. He was almost like he was writing song lyrics. He knew exactly where each one would fall. It was incredible.
So everybody works different.
Everyone works different. So for me, it takes like a year and a half to get an hour, to get like 45 minutes that I'm really, really happy with. I still have that album mentality. I don't want to do a self-aggrandizing 2.5 hours of my mind. I like a really short, powerful punk, bam, in and out. Like all my favorite albums are super short because it's all just bared down to the bone.
Now you do, when I saw you at the Kennedy Center, you did audience work.
Yes.
And you're great at it.
Thanks.
And so let me ask you something. So when I do it, I'm going to now ask you just how to tour. So when I do my sound check, and I'm talking about the lighting, I say, I want to be able to see the first several rows.
Yeah. Well, what
do you tell them? Is there a thing you tell them? How do you tell them?
You've got to find the right thing because an audience that's too well lit won't laugh because they get self-conscious.
Right. But you want to be able to see people.
You want to see people. What you can also do is go out, do, 25, 30 minutes, win their trust so they know they're in the hands of someone who knows what they're doing. Then you can go, can we turn the house lights up a little bit? But at that point, because they've laughed together, they're like, okay, we're all together now. Their inhibitions are gone. And then we can talk to them. And there's a million different ways to do it, but I like the best comedy happens in a dark room. Just like the best, like when you watch a movie in a theater, when you're just in this dark room and you're like not as aware of your body or you're not as self-conscious.
You mean the audience or you?
No, the audience is.
Okay.
I'm sorry if you're in the audience, yeah. You on stage had better be aware. You better not just drift while you're up there.
And you better be lit.
And you better be lit.
Okay,
yeah.
I got that seemed obvious.
Hang on. What if you overlit the audience, like glaring overhead office light, but then the stage is pitch black? They can just hear your voice. So they're all sitting there. They got to look at each other.
I once did a corporate speech at Nike.
Really?
Okay.
Up in Portland?
Yeah. This was years and years ago when I did corporate speech. They thought it would be really neat to put a stage, because they're Nike. They have great new ideas. To put me in a little circular, little small table-sized stage in the middle of the house.
No.
And put the executives on the stage.
No.
No is, of course.
Jesus. No. I did.
Experimenting with, I'm going, okay. And then I just started saying, like, you use like 10-year-olds to make your shoes in Asia, because I was so mad at them.
Yeah. It's like there are certain people that before you even know the grammar of the form, before you even know how to do it, they want to mess with the delivery system. It's like MTV and Comedy Central were very guilty of this back in the 90s, where they would do like, we're going to do this show called Tompkins Square where it's outside and you see the park behind them, or we'll do something on the beach, or like everything. I remember when I did my first half-hour special for Comedy Central, it was a bunch of comedians all got half-hour specials. They had us come up out of the audience to get on stage, which completely took away any mystique, because you're standing there before the show starts. You're just standing there for like half an hour while they're getting the cameras ready, and the whole audience just looking at you. You're this schlub just standing there. So by the time you get up there, like, that's that asshole I just saw. There's no magic. There's nothing.
And you look like that asshole.
I it makes you look needy. Like, let me go up. I want to talk. Like, no, don't have me standing there being needy and like, leaning on chairs and waiting to go up and rocking back and forth because I'm nervous. Yuck. It was so frustrating. And it was people like, we got to mess with the form. Actually, you don't. You just got to make sure that you get the best material and get the best comedians. And as long as they're funny, no one cares what it, That's why like a lot of cinema, especially with comedy, they're like, we're going to do crazy camera stuff. It's like every great comedy that was ever done, Animal House, Ghostbusters, something like that, it has the blandest cinematography, because that had better not be part of the joke. If you're depending on camera moves for laughs, you're screwed. If you watch Animal House, the camera's just bolted down. They trust that they've got the best performers to walk in and just destroy. But the camera's not doing crazy stuff, because it can't.
I remember once I was at Comedy Central during a summer. I took a gig like advising some people to do something. And there were these people who were doing a sketch show, and they thought one of the keys was to do funny sets.
No, you can't.
Well, I said, no.
No, it has to be the most, if you watch, especially like early SNL and especially Monty Python seem to make a fetish out of this. It is the most bog standard looking settings, because the people coming in had better be funny. The set can't get the laugh, because then nothing happens. There's no topping it. So you make it look normal.
Set is a set. If you're doing a Greek diner, it looks like a Greek diner.
Yes.
If you're doing a living room, it looks like a living room.
Right.
When if you're doing Farley doing the motivational speaker, you want the same living room we use for every living room set.
Exactly.
Just as long as you have the breakaway coffee table.
Yeah, make sure that breaks away. You need that to break. So yeah, that kind of, everything I just ranted about, I'm guilty of, because when you start getting your first laughs, you fast forward into like, I got to start doing this amazing stuff. And I was listening to a lot of Richard Pryor when I started out, but even before I started, but I really went back and listened to every word he ever said. And there's a bit he did called God is a Junkie. It's on one of his albums, and it's a discussion panel show about the meaning of God. So there's like a black militant and a born-again Christian lady, and he goes into all the voices without introducing anybody, but you know exactly who it's such a... Because he's Richard Pryor. He's a frigging genius. And he can take you. And same with the pool hall Saturday night. I think there's 12 characters in that bit. And he never needs to introduce them. You just know who's there. And you know what their status is. And I tried to do a bit like that after I'd been doing it for like 4 months. And it looked like I was having like a stroke on stage. It made no sense. Because in my mind, I'm like, it's time to start doing God as a Junkie. It's time to start operating at Richard Pryor level. It's like, you're not Richard. By the way, you'll probably never be him. Just be happy getting laughs the way you're getting it. Just chill out. Like it was just, but everyone does it. Everyone, you get excited, and you're supposed to overshoot sometimes. Yeah. But you're hoping that overshooting happens at the creative level and not the executive level.
Are you doing AP Bio now? Is that still on, or is...
No, we got... Well, it's hard for me to be upset about that because we did 2 seasons and then we didn't get picked up, and then there was a big fan outcry, which felt really good, and then Peacock swooped in and gave us 2 more seasons where they let us... And it had a lot to do with Lorne Michaels really being in our camp and going, no, let them just do what they want to do. They let us do some genuinely bizarre, brilliant stories, and we did not get the numbers, but they liked the show and stuck with it way longer than they needed to. So it's hard for me to be upset about that. They gave us 4 seasons.
Yep.
And they let Paula Pell riff. They let, me and Glenn it was such...
I never worked with Paula at SNL. She was after me.
Oh, you never got to work with her?
No.
Oh, God, she's a freaking genius.
Yeah.
Like a genius.
I was there for the first 5, left for 5, and then came back when Lorne came back. So I was a Lorne again writer.
Oh, okay.
So I did 15 seasons.
Dude.
So I worked with a lot of people, but...
Wow.
But that was still, like the last year I worked there was 1995. So we're talking about 27 years.
And the 5 years that you were off, which I assume took place during the 80s, late 70s, early 80s?
It was 80 to 85.
So what were you doing then?
Tom and I toured. We made a couple movies. Neither of them hits. We, wrote some TV, but mainly we did a lot of touring, and that was us doing a 2-man act, which you don't see anymore.
No,
hardly at all.
Yeah, it's weird. It's very hard.
Or two-person act.
2-person act. It's very hard to pull that off.
But we were real Bob and Ray influence. Who, as you know,
What's your favorite Bob and Ray bit?
Well, there's a lot of them.
There's
Slow
a lot
Talkers of America.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Komodo Dragon. I mean, they were radio comics, right? Basically.
Yeah.
So there's one where they're both on horses and they can't get off their horses. And there's a lot of whoa. And then, and they're just trying to figure out how to get off the horses. And they go under, one guy goes under a tree and grabs the branch and the horse, but he's just hanging from the branch. And the other guy comes and now they're both on a horse. I mean, it's that kind of shit.
Absurdist. They had these little throwaway things that reminded me of the kind of absurdist blackout sketches that you would see on, again, Monty Python or Mr. Show, where you can tell they had this great idea, but they're like, I don't really have a whole sketch here, but this idea is so funny. Can't we just throw this in here? So the one that has always stuck with me is there's an interview with a cranberry farmer.
Yes.
Who
didn't know what cranberries were used for.
Well, but what's also great is he's growing acres and acres of cranberries, but it's implied, and they never get to it, that he is making money doing this. And they go, so how many are for cranberry juice? He's like, I don't know what.
cranberry juice.
He's like, oh, I didn't know you could.
Let me write that down.
Wow. And then they go, so this is all for cranberry sauce. Then he was like, I'm sorry, wait, what? Like, so then they leave you wondering, why is he growing all these cranberries?
But at one point goes cranberry juice, and he goes, let me write that down.
Yes.
And it's J-U, and he goes, I-C-E. And he goes, oh, I thought there was a J in it. I mean, it's that kind of stupid.
Yeah.
I mean,
just so weird.
And Chris Elliott, of course, is Bob.
Oh my God!
Yeah.
You read Chris Elliott's memoir, right?
Yeah.
Which the whole thing was a piss take on memoirs, where his own dad has to come in going, I don't remember any of this. This is all I don't know what gold-toed socks mean. There's just that type of humor, and I'm glad that is still going on with I don't know if you've watched Tim Robinson's I Think You Should Leave. Have you seen that show?
No.
Oh, Al. Tim Robinson, he was an SNL writer, truly an original mind. And he did a show for Comedy Central called Detroiters with a guy named Sam Richardson. And they did a show together.
Oh, God, yes.
From
I've seen a
and,
sketch or two from this that are brilliant.
Watch the whole show.
Okay.
It's
Sam Richardson's on Veep.
He was on Veep, and he was on that new show, The Actor. A brilliant actor who because I was on Veep near the end, and I would talk to the writers, and they were like, Sam Richardson is so handsome and put together that he looks so competent that they had so much fun. His character is basically like brain damaged.
Right.
But they had fun going, but because he's so well put together, it takes people a long time to realize how messed up he is. I was like, are you making him dumber every season? They went, oh, absolutely. And no one really catches on to how dumb he is.
He's also, he has command of some facts in it. That is part of what disguises how dumb he is.
Yes.
And also he has quite a bit of assurance.
Well, there's one of my favorite lines of his is, my name is Richard T. Splett. I don't know why I said T. My middle name is John. And he's just so happy to give you this information, and then you just pass over it. I don't know. But this show, I Think You Should Leave it's Bob and Ray if Bob and Ray had access to some really good pharmaceuticals and some really, really good trauma and damage. It's just amazing.
Yeah.
Squirm-inducing in the best way. You
have an incredibly varied career.
Yeah.
I mean, you do voices all the time.
Voices
right?
Constantly, yeah.
What do you voice for?
Oh, my God. I mean, I'm the narrator on The Goldbergs on ABC, just animated characters. Disney, Marvel. I did a show for Hulu called MODOK, where I played a very obscure supervillain, MODOK, who is a Marvel supervillain that I love because even amongst the other villains, he's lower tier. So he's as angry at the other villains as he is the heroes because no one gives him his props. It's that just sad, And then I'm doing upcoming voices on Netflix, The Sandman show. I'm the voice of Matthew the Raven. If you've ever read the Sandman comics, that was a big deal for me because I remember back in '92 when Sandman first, that comic book really burst, and Neil Gaiman was on a signing tour, and I saw him at a comic book store near where I lived in San Francisco called Comics Experience, and I stood in line, and I got him to sign my hardback of The Season of Mists, and now I'm this Raven character that I loved from the books. That is a very surreal, happy thing that's happening.
And you got a podcast.
And I have a podcast with my wife, Meredith, who we've had lunch with. It's called Did You Get My Text? And it's basically, I'm sure that you and Franny deal with this too. Yes, we live together. Yes, we're married. But a lot of our communication is over texting. Even though we're not that far apart from each other during the day, a lot of times we're just, can you do this? Or can you get, like it's all over texting now.
And that is a big subject of your show, is discussing your texts.
Well, not going back through them and deciphering what did this mean or why did you send this to me?
Right.
There was one where I just sent her this article and I wasn't meaning it to be a slam on her, but it was about how industry secrets from insiders. And some guy was saying people spend way too much on jewelry. Actually, zirconias and stuff look just the same and no one knows the difference. And I don't know why it's such a racket. And then I sent that to her. Isn't that interesting? She's like, so you say I spend too much on jewelry? Like, why are you sending me? I'm like, no. I just thought you would like the,
Well,
so
you have something in your last show that was on Netflix, which is you guys have an argument. You go out, drive out to
a hiking
where
trail.
you hike.
Yep.
And then she feels bad,
Mm-hmm.
and you're off, I guess, hiking, and she leaves
Doing my anger hike.
doing your anger hike, and she leaves a note which scares the shit out of you.
Which she meant to be romantic, but she didn't think of the context, and she leaves a note on my windshield. Here's the note. Verbatim. First line. Stop. Space. Second line. Get out of your car. Space. Third line. Walk to the park bench in front of you. Space. Last line. I love you. Now, okay, yes, it ended with I love you. That's very nice. But that was a long, terrifying walk to I love you. Holy shit. That is what a demented hitman leaves on a windshield. I'm reading this thing like, oh God, who did I fight with on Twitter today? And she was filming it. I still have film of me walking towards it going, I thought I was going to get murdered. 'Cause you see me take it off the windshield and I'm frozen in fear. You know, like, oh my God, what the hell? You're stand-up now, your act. You do an hour, I take it.
I do actually more. I do
Really?
I do like an hour and a half, but how can I justify that? It's all very it works. How's that?
Well, also, not just does it work, especially at this time, because you were in the Senate, and we are seeing how crazed the Senate and
I
House.
have some perspective
That's
on
what-
what's
yeah.
going on right now. So my thing, people are going like, oh, well, it's just going to be political satire. And I go, yeah, but it's laughs.
Well, yeah, but it also it's a weird perspective of, you know what, it must feel like a guy who, I was in a band and the band was really fun, and then I left the band, and when I left they went insane, and now they're doing and it's almost like you can give this inside information on the institution, because it's like
gotten much worse. Even
we
since
all
I left,
see it, yeah.
But it got worse from the day I got to the Senate.
Mm-hmm.
First day on the floor, I'm talking to a few senators.
Mm-hmm.
I said, "Is it bad? It's bad now, right?" And they go, a couple of them say it's the worst it's ever been. And Carl Levin says, "No, it's been worse." And I said, "When?" And he goes, 1854.
The caning of Charles Sumner, like that kind
Yes.
of, is that what he
And
brought up?
Yes, and that's what I said, the caning of Charles Sumner. And he goes, yes. And I go, okay, that was really the lead up to the Civil War.
Yeah.
So you're saying that other than that, it's never been worse. And since then, it's just gotten worse and worse and worse. And I got there in July because I had a recount of 09. But Mitch McConnell filibustered more executive nominations than had been filibustered in the previous entire history of the country.
Yeah.
And he had said to his caucus, our goal is to make this guy a one-term president.
Yeah.
And then it got worse and worse, and then you got more of these like Ted Cruz types, and now you've got more Cottons and Hawleys and these people. And the Republican Party got more and more nuts, and then you had Trump.
Well, it metastasized from the Tea Party, and it also turned into, they realized very, very quickly, I heard this said on another podcast, but if any of them says anything against the party line, they will be primary.
You don't know how true that is. I text a number of my former Republican colleagues, and I just say, why don't you just say that the election wasn't stolen? Just say that.
Yeah.
Because it
they
wasn't.
Can't.
And they bullshit me, back and forth bullshit. I call them on the bullshit. Finally, they go, look, if I said the election wasn't stolen, they would think I was a never Trumper and I could not win my primary.
Yeah.
And you would have someone much crazier than me.
Yes.
And then I kind of go, really? You're kind of crazy.
Yeah. This is crazy. But it's like I don't know. I still don't support that because of enough of them. Again, they're talking about a bully that if you punch a bully in the nose once, he goes away. They just haven't done that to him yet,
No. I mean, the ones that punched him have Flake punched him, and
No, that's true.
You know,
Yeah.
I mean, it's
It's bad.
and Trump has made it worse. And you're right. It's the Tea Party. It was Palin.
Yeah.
And before Palin, there was Buchanan. And I wrote these books. Rush Limbaugh's a big fat idiot and other observations. It was, and Lies and Lying Liars. And that was about the right wing putting out disinformation. And I was saying that was dangerous. Now I don't know where that's gone.
Well, that was like there's still the ongoing irony of Sinead O'Connor burned her career to the ground because she said the Catholic Church is abusing kids. Everyone's like, get her out of here! Boom! Oh my God! And now it's like, well, there you go. Sometimes it doesn't pay to be early.
Oh, also in that special, I hate to go back to special.
Go ahead, please.
But you said the best thing because it was about doing material about Trump. And doing jokes about Trump, and everyone going like, when Trump got elected, oh, this must be heaven for comedians. And what was your analogy?
My analogy is that, Trump is a 18-wheeler full of monkeys on PCP, and it crashes into a train full of diarrhea. And now there's diarrhea-covered monkeys on PCP running around. Everyone's watching it. And you as a comedian walk up, go, you want to hear some jokes I wrote about this? You're like, no, we're good. It's diarrhea-covered monkeys on PCP. What are you talking about? So it was that. Oh, and by the way,
that's a very good explanation.
Thank you.
Of why it was so frustrating for comedians to hear, like, what a gold mine this guy is.
No, it's one joke. I mean, I also said that it's impossible to keep up with him because my analogy was he's a crazy guy on the sidewalk and he's just taking a dump. And then you turn to your friends and you have this amazing joke about the guy taking the dump. And by the time you turn to them, they're like, oh, he turned back around. He took his poo and made a piñata out of it. He's like, has it on his head. And you're like, oh, I don't have a material. Like, there's no way to keep up with him. There's no shelf life.
Mulaney, of course, did the horse in the hospital.
Perfect.
And that was perfect.
Perfect. Because he doesn't even name them. That was such a brilliant bit because what he was saying, beyond it, the bit being funny, was it's so bad that we all know what we're talking about now. Like, it really embraced the shared insanity. And we're tiptoeing around a thing that it's in front of us, but no one dares speak it, even though it's right there.
And, of course, as bad as you knew he was, it ends with him trying to end our democracy.
Yeah.
Which is kind of as bad as you can get, right?
Yeah. But, and he's fine. It feels like there's no consequences anymore. It feels like no one, you read about people in politics that do one thing and they have to go away forever. It's like, oh, that's an age that's gone now. These people never go away. It doesn't matter.
And I hear people now, well, I guess it's going to be DeSantis because I don't think people are going to, because Trump is really discredited by what he said about Putin or something. I'm going like, I thought he was gone at I don't like people who were captured.
Yeah.
I like the people who weren't captured. And you never can count this guy out.
No.
And part of me hope he's the nominee and part of me hope he isn't the nominee.
I'm torn because, I'm the same way because if he's the nominee, one of the good things about him is he's doing all this fundraising, but the fundraising just goes to him. And it's siphoning off money from other candidates that desperately need it because the money that goes to the Trump reelection doesn't actually, he just puts it in just sends it offshore. And that's money that they need. And it's actually hurting them a little bit. But what the reason I hope he doesn't get it is because if he loses, there'll be an even worse run on, like they'll burn the Capitol to the ground. It feels like that.
But my thinking, of course, and this is I'm just saying out loud what
hopeful.
Everybody is thinking, which is he couldn't possibly win. And then, of course, it talks about election reform, and it talks about suppressing votes, and it talks to them about,
which is all they're doing. That's everything they're passing is about election stuff. That's all they care about right now, which should tell you they're doing it right in front of us. There's no more. That's what movies like The Parallax View and All the President's Men and 3 Days of the Condor just seem like fantasies now because they don't.
You had to do the research.
Yeah, but there's no covert stuff anymore. It's right in front of you. They don't hide it anymore.
And, you know, in some places, the worst stuff didn't pass. My God, you know, they've passed laws where the state legislature, which is Republican, can overturn the election. That's in Georgia.
Yeah. Oh my God, they used you guys' old technique from the early SNL days, because didn't you used to pitch, if you wanted a sketch to get on, you would write a couple of things. You're like, well, they'll totally kill these and then let this one get through.
Oh, you mean the censors?
Yeah, exactly. How you get by. It seems like they're doing a version of that. Like put a couple of bills that are so crazy, and then the ones that
people will point to them, and then they're even so bad that they can't get them done.
But then they'll pat themselves on the back for crushing it, while the
for making it much harder for people to register, people to get absentee ballots.
Exactly.
That's what they're doing in Texas.
It's almost like you keep seeing the rough drafts, and they keep refining it every couple of years. So back in 2000, when they were doing the recount in Florida for Bush v. Gore, the decision to stop the recount, which was ad hoc, this will never happen again. We don't want to set precedent with this, because they knew what they were doing. Who's the justice that who passed away? The
Scalia.
Scalia, in his argument, said, I'm paraphrasing this, but he said, a recount will jeopardize Bush's claim on the presidency. Like, that's in the language of the decision, which is basically him going, this guy says he's president. Now, if we count these votes, this could really make him look. So that is the start of that. It goes back to what, these guys that they're afraid of being primaried. They had better say stuff that'll be a good soundbite on Fox News that they can use in their campaign ad. They're cutting campaign ads in real time. That's what you're watching.
The thing
happen.
is, they know they're lying.
Yeah.
Shouldn't you draw a line there? I mean, I think there are people who, kind of say things in a way that they go to a gray area or something like that. There's that, but then there's just these guys are lying
flat out, and they know they are, but they trust that. Well, but it'll be such because they've learned. But this cut together, you can almost see them editing it in their head, and they trust that the Fox News and the OAN and the Newsmax people will cut it just perfectly for them, that they can then send it out. And
they know that for certain.
Yeah.
They know that for certain, and their people are sending it to them.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, that's got to be so frustrating.
So we got off comedy.
Really, boy, did we veer.
But I know that you care about this shit.
I keep going down, and I got to keep stopping myself doing this. I keep going down this rabbit hole of reading about Vienna right before the annexation, when Vienna was this very, very open society, cabaret, irony, and culture, and they were so ironic that they thought that the Nazis were a joke, and thought like, well, we're beyond all that now. We're post-World War I, and these guys are idiots. And they weren't able to see, as a guy, this guy Clive James, great writer, was like, they were having so much fun with language and messing around with irony and taking apart their liberal comrades' writings, and like, oh, you use that word wrong, or oh, that's a cliche, blah, blah, that they could not imagine of someone like Hitler who just absolutely meant exactly what he was saying, with no irony, no playfulness. And it was so ridiculous to them, like we did with Trump, like, this is insane. Obviously he's through. No one's going to, that we didn't see it coming, because we were so wrapped up in irony.
About us.
Talking about us. I'm talking about especially my generation. It was all that. We thought we were beyond racism, and there was a lot of ironic racism amongst a lot of alt comedy, a lot of Gen X, because we thought, well, we're beyond it. We can make fun of it. And we didn't realize we were actually mapping out a blueprint for a lot of the alt-right people and a lot of the edgelords and a lot of the shit posters to use, for them to go, I'm just being ironic. It's like, no, you actually mean this.
Right,
You're trying to grandfather your shit in, and we're partially responsible for doing that.
That's another thing, is I always feel like a good joke is much better than a bad joke.
Yes. Oh, yes. And we've lost that now. That's totally gone.
I understand. And good jokes usually maybe have like actual irony in it.
Yeah.
And actual meaning and actual dimension.
Or at least they turn whatever harshness they're sitting out back on the joke teller to go, well, no, this is actually ultimately about me. Whereas a lot of these edgelords, they just stop at I just made fun of the different person, and that's where it ends. And they go, it's just edgy humor. You're like, no, you didn't turn that anywhere else.
But it is also dangerous it is also dangerous that you can tell a joke where it's absolutely clear what you mean.
Mm-hmm.
And some people will object because there's a certain element in it, and you have to be very careful now.
Oh, absolutely. But you know what? Look, here's my thing about this. For years, when I did comedy in the 80s, doing stand-up comedy, you may as well have been a rodeo clown. They're like, oh, what you do doesn't matter. You just go up there. And we've seen that, no, comedy kind of matters. It's crucial. It's crucial to people's mental health. It's crucial to society's health. It's like the thing that we wanted. We want to be taken seriously. Well, now you're being taken seriously. Now they're really looking at what you're doing because they know that it matters. And, you know, it goes back to when Goebbels went and saw a screening of It Happened One Night, and he was like, in his diary, oh, I wish we could do something like that. Like, we need that. Like, we could use that as a tool for our shittiness, but we don't have any creativity or a sense of humor. So it does matter. That kind of stuff does matter. And so act like you matter. You know, take it. Just roll with it a little bit. And,
yeah, but there is a thing where Pryor, Carlin, all those people pushed Lenny Bruce, deliberately pushed boundaries.
But they were pushing for more openness. The people that are doing the edgelord stuff now are pushing for, can we go back to the way can I go back to being able to say these horrible things? It's like, no, we got to keep moving forward. Those guys were trying to push forward in whatever ways they succeeded or failed at doing it. Do you know what I mean?
But what I'm saying is things can be deliberately misinterpreted.
Oh, well,
you know,
there are people that deliberately misinterpret things when they see that, oh, there's clicks to be gotten out of this.
Yeah.
I can get some clicks out of this. When I did that joke about the monkeys on PCP covered in diarrhea. I think I did it on like Conan early on. Yeah. And there was some right-wing website that said, Patton Oswalt calls Ben Carson a monkey. That was the headline. And they were counting on people like just click on it and then in the article they're like, he says that the Trump thing is, but Trump,
that's a troll.
But it's a troll on it. That wasn't like just a guy on Twitter with like John and then 9 numbers and 3 followers. This was a right wing, looked like a news site and tried to make it look. But I'm saying there are things to get out of willfully misinterpreting things if you want to advance your own career, and I've seen that happen too, and that's also dangerous.
Yeah, it's a tough time.
Yeah, views and clicks have eclipsed content and meaning, and that's what's really dangerous right now.
Yep.
Hey, come see us. We'll be at the. We're gonna be
at the Mike and Stool.
At the Mike and Stool. My favorite fake comedy club name was made up by Blaine Capatch, Befuddleds in West Virginia.
Well, Tom Davis used to say that. We're booked next week at the Punchline, but first they've got us at the Setup across the street.
Which not too far from the truth. There was a lot of those one-nighters that basically was a setup.
Yeah,
that's all it is.
And I wish we would be in the same town one night. Well, we are now.
Well, we are now, and we're going to go to dinner later tonight. That'll be very nice. But yeah, it would be really good. And who knows? We're going to keep touring. If we're in the same town and one of us can either get in a night early or stay an extra night, it'll be great to do it.
Yeah, it's so much fun doing it.
It's the best.
And I've seen you. You haven't seen me do a full show.
I will see you soon whenever.
But thanks for bringing me on at Largo.
And I'll have you on again. Absolutely,
I would love to do it anytime.
Yeah. Can we end on a sweet note? Let's end it there. I don't want to, because we keep going down these dark roads. Let's end it right there.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And then we're going to take all the dark stuff out. This will be about a 15-minute thing.
Oh, good. Thank God. Al, thanks for having me on, man.
Thank you.
And I'll see you in a couple hours. Well, I hope you enjoyed listening. That beautiful music is by Leo Kottke, the great Leo Kottke. I want to thank Peter Ogburn for producing this podcast. We'll talk again next week.